Welcome to 5 Ways to Stop Gaslighting Yourself. If you are prone to gaslighting yourself, to doubting what you've experienced, this video is for you. This is for Black women healing from trauma and toxic workplaces that literally do this to us, right? So we experience gaslighting externally, and then as a result, we will internalize what happens to us externally and then start to internalize that, right? And start to gaslight ourselves, start to doubt our own reality. And that's when things can get dangerous, for lack of a better word, because we will spiral right into a cycle of anxiety, sometimes depression, right? By doubting our own bodies, doubting what we feel, doubting what we know to be true. And those seeds of doubt are very powerful. So, we're going to be talking about 5 ways you can stop gaslighting yourself. These are practical ways that you can implement today, right? No, like they're not big things that require all these jumping through hoops, like practical ways that you can implement today to stop gaslighting yourself. We see gaslighting welcome. Thank you for joining. Yes. And if you're here live, please introduce yourself in the chat so we can say hello. But we see the society that we live in constantly gaslighting us, right? Constantly making us doubt what we know to be true, what we experience in day to day life, and the ramifications of that, right? We start questioning the information that our body is giving to us, right? That this environment is toxic, that this person is wrong, like something about this person is off, and maybe go in a different direction, right? Get away from this person, get away from this environment, because we have been conditioned to gaslight ourselves from such a young age. It really takes a practice to begin to tap back into what you know to be true and to let that be your compass, right? And to let that be your validation that you can, in fact, leave this environment because your body is telling you something is off, right? That you don't deserve to be in a toxic environment. And if you are in a job that's not serving you or a toxic job, I will be co hosting the upcoming Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women with Dr. Kamani, and early registration ends April 15th. I will put the link in the chat if you'd like to register. It's also in the description section if you're watching the replay. Um, but yes, welcome, hello, and I would love to hear how y'all are doing. There's a lot going on in the world, right, that we see happening, and one of those things is gaslighting. So again, gaslighting what we know to be true, what we see in front of our own eyes happening to us, right? And we will have people around us often in society making us doubt that, making us question that. And the impact of that is huge, right? Because then again, we internalize what's happening to us and we start to doubt our own reality, doubt what we're experiencing, what we're seeing in front of us. And then you're not really able to grasp onto what is real. If someone has made you doubt, right, what you see, what you know to be true, that can be a slippery slope internally. So, how can we stop gaslighting ourselves? I'll be sharing 5 tips, practical tips today. But yeah, this is for you if you second guessed your feelings, if you've minimized your pain, or if you've told yourself, well, it's really not that bad, right? It probably is. So let's talk about self gaslighting. Again, when we internalize the voices of people who have dismissed us, who have doubted what we're seeing, who have doubted what we're feeling, and then we start doing it to ourselves. So the whole purpose of my channel, right, is to help Black women process, heal from traumatic experiences. And part of that is really like externalizing what you experienced. That's just the first step. So externalizing, right, the fact that those folks out there, the society has caused me to doubt what I know to be true, but I can always turn inward, right, and reclaim those parts of myself and strengthen my intuition, rebuild my self trust. All of this is a practice over time because it was a period of disintegration that occurred, right, with our self trust, with our intuition, that society has done, right? It doesn't want us to be in touch with our intuition, with our core essence, because that's where our power lies. And so to recognize that this has been a process over time of conditioning, of literally trying to get you to doubt yourself, of question what you're seeing, then you can begin to go in the direction of reclaiming those parts that you may have lost along the way, right? And they're not lost, they're just buried. So it's a process of uncovering those parts again, strengthening, rebuilding your intuition just like you would any muscle, right? A practice over time to help you begin to trust yourself once again, because it's never lost, right? Because you had it at one point, and it's keeping that in mind. You had it at one point. How can you go back and reclaim those parts, reclaim that trust that you once had in yourself now at this age, right? Whatever age you're at, never too late. It's so important. Jordan and BS, hey, thank you for speaking on this topic. I have my pen and paper ready. Oh, thank you so much. I love to hear that. Yes, yes. Okay, so let's get into the first tip. So name what happened. This is very important. So write it down. Yes, so write it down. If you are a journaler, if you don't like writing, voice noting, right? Say it to yourself. Say it out loud. The voice is very powerful. And shout out to Coach Yolanda, who will be speaking at the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women coming up May 16th through 18th. She'll be kicking it off with internal freedom first. But I was just in her workshop yesterday on chakra healing. And she was talking about the power of the throat chakra, right? When you say something out loud, there is so much power in that. And that's, again, why there's all these forces that want us to silence our voices. When you speak it, there's power behind that. So say it to yourself, say it out loud, say it in your journal, say it in a voice note, share it with someone who is safe, right? Don't sugarcoat it. What happened? Say it plainly. What happened, right? What happened to you? What occurred? What did you see happen? Don't try to explain it away, right? Sitting with the self-validation. If it hurts you, it hurts you. And really relying on your own inner compass, right? Your own intuition versus relying on someone else externally to validate what you've experienced. Because you don't need that, right? You really don't need that. You need your own internal validation. Yes, I was harmed. Yes, this occurred. Yes, this person said this to me. Yes, that was disrespectful. And saying it plainly, again, to yourself in your journal, voice notes, right, out loud, in the mirror, any way that works for you. But name what happened to stop gaslighting yourself. That's the first tip I have. Validating your own experience is the first step towards healing. Because again, you don't need anyone outside of you to validate what you're feeling, because they don't even know what emotions you're feeling. Only you know that. Only you know when something hurt, when something offended you, when something was disrespectful. And so you have to view yourself as your own authority, right? As your own person, to be like, no, that was wrong. Yes, that did happen to me, and hold on to that tight, because again, there are forces within the society that literally try to break that down within us. Something that we come here having from such a young age, which is why inner child healing is so important, because we come here knowing how to do these things. And it's a process over time of societal conditioning that breaks that down within us, that causes us to lose touch with our intuition, with our sense of discernment. And so it's really getting those pieces back and knowing that it's possible, right? Even if it takes time. Again, it was a practice over time. It was a process, right, of disintegrating your intuition, your self-trust, all these things that a lot of us struggle with. And it's also a process of reclaiming that, but knowing that it's within you, right? Even having the awareness that you're gaslighting yourself is huge, because then you can take action to begin to stop, right? And actually sitting with the truth and the reality of what you're experiencing. Naming what happened is so important to yourself, right? To yourself. Okay, next tip. Watch for maybe I'm just language. So how many of us do this? I know that I am guilty of this too. Listen for language when you're speaking, when you're sharing with other people. Maybe I'm just being too sensitive. Maybe I misunderstood what they were doing. Maybe they weren't really trying to be like that. Maybe they weren't trying to disrespect me, right, in the context of a work environment. Maybe I spoke up too much, right? Maybe I should have silenced myself a little bit more. Then we go into the spiral, right, of picking ourselves apart from the inside, which is dangerous. Instead of externalizing what happened to you, no, that person was wrong when they said that to you, right? They should never have said that to you. No, that was actually extremely disrespectful, right? Sitting with that truth and just how much power can be attained by shifting that internal narrative that it wasn't you. No, you didn't misunderstand. No, you weren't being too sensitive. That was actually a hurtful comment that that person said towards you. Okay, so resisting self gaslighting, instead, try saying, like, I noticed that hurt me, right? Becoming self aware of our emotions is huge. I noticed that that comment really hurt. I noticed when that person said that to me, I had these emotions pop up, right? And a body scan might be helpful at this point. I noticed a burning in my chest when this person said that to me. That gives me information. Let me sit with why instead of trying to explain it away immediately. What was it about that comment that hurt? And again, sitting with that truth, the comment hurt. Not gaslighting yourself that it didn't hurt, right? That you weren't offended when you were, sitting with the truth of the emotion that you're experiencing is so important. Hey, Stacey, good to see you here. Thank you for joining. Right, so sitting with that truth is so important. So resisting self-gaslighting, resisting the maybe I'm just, if you notice yourself saying that, if you notice yourself repeating that to yourself on a loop, go in a different direction, right? Oh, I notice I'm trying to explain away what just happened. Can I go in a different direction of validating my emotions and my feelings towards whatever I'm experiencing? That could be a really powerful way to begin to take your power back, which I'll be speaking about at the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black Women, again, May 16th through 18th. I will be speaking about how to take your power back, how to own your skills and rebuild your self-worth, right? Because a lot of this, as I'm learning, healing from my own toxic job experience, a lot of this conditioning started very early on, right? To tell me that I should accept disrespect. And it's really sitting with that truth, right? I have to go back. That's why inner child healing to me is like a non negotiable. We have to go back to those times, right? Those moments when it first started. Often in school, often around family members, right? That have told us that we just have to accept these things. Going back to that time and actually telling yourself at that age, no, that's actually incorrect. I don't have to accept that now. Now, as an adult, I have the agency to leave this environment, to plan my pivot, which we'll be speaking about at the summit, the whole theme of the summit, to plan your pivot, to plan your exit outside of an environment that's harming you. Because so often as children, we don't have the autonomy, right, to leave these very toxic, traumatic environments. But now as an adult, it's validating to yourself that you do. That's what's changed, right? It may feel the same as an environment that you encountered in childhood or adolescence, but it's not, because now you have the agency to leave, to plan your exit, and you don't have to gaslight yourself in the process. Okay, another tip. Trusting your body's wisdom is so important. So your body remembers what your mind tries to ignore. That's so powerful. Your body remembers what your mind tries to ignore, right? There are whole studies on this. Our body keeps count, right? I think the book is The Body Keeps the Score, which I haven't read yet, but it's on my list. But it's so important, right? Our body remembers situations where we felt disrespected, where we felt lied to, right? Where we felt like someone was planting those seeds of doubt within us. Our body remembers those. Even as our mind tries to make logical sense of things that will never make logical sense, right? Oppression is not logical. So, sitting with that, you may feel tight shoulders, a racing heart, a gut feeling, right? And these feelings are not random. Learning to trust your nervous system signals instead of pushing them down, ignoring them, writing them off. This is important information. All right, your body is not lying to you. The body is not capable of lying. That's our minds. But it's really sitting with the information that your body is trying to give you. The racing heart, right? The sweating palms, the insomnia that a lot of us experience, crying spells, all of these things are wisdom from our body that are telling us, right, the direction to go in, to leave, to make your exit plan, to protect yourself. All of these things are so important. And again, it's a process of conditioning that breaks these things down over time, starting at such a young age, where we no longer trust our bodies. We no longer rely on them as we did when we were kids, right? Because a lot of us had these feelings as kids. We come here with this information. This environment is off because I feel something. I don't even have the vocabulary to describe it, but I just feel it, right? Before you had the words to explain it, you knew when something was off. And so, how can you get that back? Because it's still within you. Again, as you're having the awareness that you may be gaslighting yourself, that's the first step to be able to reclaim those parts of yourself, right? And again, here is the link to register for the summit. We have amazing Black women speakers coming to share their knowledge, lived experience, how to get free, how to reclaim yourself, how to heal from trauma, how to create income streams, right? Freelancing, consulting, getting another job, redoing your resume, all these things in one place. If you're looking to free yourself from a job environment that's harming you or one that's not serving you, instead of feeling like you're stuck and you have to stay, reminding yourself that you have agency at every point in this life experience. Another tip, reclaim overreacting. So this term, overreacting, right? Some people may have told us, oh, you're overreacting. You're making too big of a deal. And often that's code for you're reacting in a way that makes me uncomfortable, right? Which again is not your problem. This is where someone else's emotional regulation comes into play, right? So your overreacting is often code for you're reacting in a way that makes me uncomfortable. Sometimes it can make people uncomfortable with the emotions that they feel and they're not ready to admit, right? So it's sitting with that it's not you. It's not you, right? You get to respond to harm in your way. It's reclaiming your right to react, right? Reacting appropriately, given the situation, of course. But it's reclaiming that power that you have over your emotions and your feelings towards disrespect, towards harm, instead of feeling like you have to kind of cower to other people based on their potential emotional responses, which again is rooted often in childhood trauma. When you've had to do this to protect yourself, to survive sometimes. And so it's having all the self-compassion, which I'll get to in a second, in the world with yourself. If you're experiencing self-gaslighting, there's a reason for it, and the reason is not your fault. But it's reclaiming your ownership over your emotions. It's so important. Hey, Ink, happy day. I'm currently in classes to get ready to return to corporate America. Wow. Yeah. I'm wishing you the best. I'm wishing you the best. And thank you for being here. Yeah. Okay. Another tip, practice self compassion on repeat. So, meeting your inner critic with compassion. So, when the inner voice you have says you're too much, which again is not our voice, not your voice. If you think back to when you were a child, right, it's so important to revisit those times. Did you come here doubting yourself? Did you come here criticizing yourself, talking negatively to yourself, telling yourself you can't do XYZ, that you shouldn't even try? Or is that someone else's voice that you may have internalized? Celebrating you. I'm looking forward to showing up with knowledge and all my superpowers, all of them. All of them. Yes. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yes. And to recognize that you have so many superpowers. Powerful. Powerful. Oh, yes. I'm glad too. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Okay. So when your inner voice says, again, you're too much, again, you're overreacting, you're making too big of a deal, you can actually respond right out loud. It's okay. Saying, no, I'm not too much. I've just had to hold too much for too long, right? And not out loud if if it doesn't feel comfortable in your journal, voice noting. But again, the voice is very powerful. And there is this, like, I don't know, hesitancy to talk out loud when it's just when we're by ourselves. But that can be the most powerful, right? When you are by yourself and you're recognizing these patterns at play. Saying out loud to yourself, I'm not going that way anymore. I'm not. I'm not going to doubt myself. I'm not going to gaslight myself anymore. I'm tired. I'm actually going to sit and validate and affirm my emotions and what I feel and begin to trust myself again. That's power. All right. Self trust, again, takes time. It is not an overnight process, but these are practical things that you can implement today. Give yourself time, give yourself patience, give yourself grace. With every kind word that you say to yourself, know that you build back your self trust. You build back your intuition. Extremely powerful. Again, there are so many forces that try to disconnect us from our inner knowing that we come here with. We come here equipped, fully equipped. And it's over time, right? Again, starting in childhood, all of the voices that we've internalized that have caused us to doubt ourselves, to go against our intuition, to tell us that trauma, harm is the only thing that we deserve. False. Because why would our bodies be reacting to these things if that's what we're here for? And not everyone gets this message, right? It's told to a select number of us. Again, intersectionality is so important, coined by Kimberly Crenshaw. But the different places that you sit at the intersections of systems of oppression, right, often tell you your value in this society. They tell you how valuable you are. Systems of oppression are telling us, right, we come here valuable, we come here whole, how much we should expect. And once you recognize that, that's how you take your power back. Because now you can reject it. Now that you have that awareness, I'm actually not going to operate with that. That was never mine to carry. And I know that I was created full, whole, right, to receive everything that is meant for me. And I'm not actually going to take that on anymore. That I only deserve this. That I should be okay with harm, mistreatment, abuse. False. No. That is a narrative contributing to my further oppression, right? To internal gaslighting, which we're talking about here, self-gaslighting. Oh, thank you so much for this. Not only do you drop gems, you are a wise one indeed. Thank you. Thank you for continuing to acknowledge, uplift, and honor Black women. Absolutely. I appreciate this. I appreciate this. Yes. And yeah, thank y'all to everyone who has left comments, um, sharing your stories on my videos. Again, over the process of it's been over 2 years now that I've been on YouTube, but it has been so healing for me to read what you all share, right? And I mean that sincerely. This is a community of knowledge sharing, right? I definitely do not have all the answers, especially not at this age. But just being able to learn from others, right, who have gone through similar things, sharing the books that you've read, the resources that you've gained, the lived experience, it's powerful. And so I want to thank y'all so much for being here. Again, recognize, again, I want to say that again, with every kind word that you tell yourself, you rebuild your self confidence, you rebuild your self worth, you rebuild your intuition. These things that were attempted to be stolen from you. Now you're taking it back by giving yourself compassion, kindness, grace, patience in this process. This was not an overnight thing that happened where you begin to doubt yourself, gaslight yourself, right? Go against your intuition. This was over a period of years, very intentionally. But that doesn't mean all is lost because it exists within you. Something exists within you, even if you're watching this, right? Live or on the replay. Something within you that knows the self-trust is there and that you can get it back at any time. Right? Again, these forces will try to convince us so often that all is lost. That knowing that we had back in childhood is gone forever. Now we should just be okay with not really connecting with our intuition anymore. Having that internal narrative that says, no, I reject that. The politics of refusal. Reject, refuse. I'm not taking that on. Knowing that you have the power to do that. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so as we wrap up today, let me put my banner up here. Okay. Yeah, as we wrap up, I want you to know that your feelings are not up for debate. Your experiences are real. Your intuition is sacred. And you are allowed to trust yourself again. Again, your feelings are not up for debate. Your experiences are real. Your intuition is sacred. And you are allowed to trust yourself again. Right? You're not too sensitive, those of us who have been told that. You are remembering who you are, who you came here to be. So with that, I want to thank y'all so much for being here live. If you're watching the replay, please like this video if you liked it. Comment below if anything resonated. Thank you for this, DG. Thank you for being here. And yeah, register for the Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women if you are interested in taking your power back from a toxic environment. Let's try to rob you of self-worth, try to convince you that you're not skilled, even though how did you get the job if you're not skilled? Right? But there again, it's a process of conditioning. Do I want to say mental warfare? I think I do. Of disintegrating what we came into these environments with. Right? And it brings some people joy. I mean, let's be honest about it. It does. This is a source of a lot of people's joy. To harm other people, to make them doubt themselves, to plant the seeds that were not there at one point. And so how can you resist that? To protect yourself within these evil systems that we find ourselves in. It's so important. And hopefully these tips helped. I'll go through them one more time. So tips for resisting self-gaslighting: naming what happened. Watch for maybe I'm just language. You're not. Trust your body's wisdom. Reclaim overreacting. You're not overreacting. You were harmed. And then put self-compassion on repeat, right? Give yourself so much grace, so much patience, so much understanding as you're navigating this process of coming back home to yourself. It's so important. But yes, thank y'all so much for watching. And yeah, until next time. Bye, y'all. Appreciate y'all. Of course. Bye.